Welcome to Sundays at Cafe Tabac, the podcast. Happy Pride, everybody. Happy Pride, Karen.
Happy Pride, Wanda.
Hi, I'm Wanda Acosta.
And I'm Karen Song, and we're the filmmakers of the documentary feature film project of the same name that's still in progress.
And we wanted to launch this podcast series of coming out stories right now as an affirmation to the courage, vision, strength, and joy in our community amidst the cancellations of all of our public pride celebrations this year due to the unfortunate COVID pandemic.
For our first episode, we're launching it with Wanda's coming out story, which we originally recorded for the documentary. So Wanda, I love that the humble beginnings of you becoming this, illustrious nightlife impresario in our community started really as a personal way for you to come out.
Yes, it wasn't easy for me to come out, and I finally did later in my 20s. I really just needed to be surrounded by a community of lesbians that reflected my reality at the time. I felt like a fish out of water and just wanted to be out, loud, and fabulous. So I created, along with the amazing Shari Nash, the party Sundays at Cafe Tabac.
And thank goodness for all of us. I mean, what I find really intriguing about your coming out story is that, this very personal search and struggle and celebration is coming to terms with your identity. It necessitated an action to create community, and a community that didn't really exist. I mean, how many people became more comfortable in their skin and were inspired to come out because they were the beneficiaries of the community you created and how infectious it was. I can for sure say that that's true for me as a woman of color at that time. I mean, seriously, what a gift that has all been for all of us. It's, a beautiful model of how one's own truth, courage, creativity, and self-empowerment can resonate out into the world and create a seed for change.
It's so true. Thank you for that. Everybody's story is unique and a moment of self-empowerment that we can all be inspired by. I had no idea that this party and the events that I would do would actually become a lifetime of advocacy for the queer community. And I'm so grateful, and it's been an incredible and amazing time.
Oh my God, an amazing time for all of us, Wanda. And there was definitely something that I felt that I could connect with. And, everyone's coming out story that we heard in our interviews, that was deeply emotional for me, even if that person's life looked nothing like mine. And so without further ado, here's Wanda sharing her coming out story.
My name is Wanda Acosta, and I was the owner of Starlight, Wonder Bar, and Clubhouse, which were gay and lesbian bars in the East Village. I also promoted a lot of parties in New York City. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My parents came to New York from Puerto Rico in the 1950s, and so I'm a diehard New Yorker. And I was in my early 20s, married. I met someone when I was 20 years old, and I was married to a man. I knew that I was attracted to women. In high school, I certainly knew I was attracted to women, and I felt completely different from my girlfriends. I couldn't really get excited about, the football team and cheerleading and all those things that my girlfriends were doing, and I sort of forced myself to be a cheerleader, and I was miserable. But so fast forward, I met someone and I was in love and we got married, but I always was curious and I sort of dabbled, and I never thought that there was anything wrong with it. It was just part of who I was. I never really considered that I needed to label myself or anything. I mean, I thought women were beautiful. I was curious, and I would have these liaisons with women. It was all sort of like sexual experimentation, really. I never really got emotionally involved with any of these women. But then at one point I did meet someone, and it did become more emotional, and it did sort of skew and change how I was feeling. And I also realized that, oh my God, this is what's been missing all this time. I didn't feel like all my other girlfriends felt in their relationships. I always felt like something was just missing. So our marriage, fell apart, and we got divorced, and I decided that yeah, this is what I've been looking for. And I was totally really nervous about what I felt was going to be a lifestyle change, and also concerned about what my family and friends would think. I was definitely not out. This was all like, kind of hidden to my family, and certainly to my close friends knew, but not everybody knew. I was still sort of not sure how I was going to handle that, but I knew in my heart that this is what I wanted to pursue, and this is who I was. So I had a whole nother group of like gay and lesbian friends, and I always had gay friends. So that was like my posse that I was hanging out with. And as I started discovering who I was, then I was comfortable having more lesbian friends. So I moved out. I decided this is what I'm going to try to do. I want to try to have a lesbian relationship. The woman that I left my husband for like took off because she got freaked out, and I did actually meet somebody, and that was going to be like my first. I'm going to really try to like see what it's like to have like a lesbian relationship, and we dated for several months, and that didn't really sort of work out, but we actually ended up doing Cafe Tabac Party together. I wasn't ready to come out. I wasn't sure when I was going to come out. Coming out meaning like coming out to my family. I mean, my friends, my close friends knew, and my siblings knew. My brother and sister knew, although I told my brother a little bit later. I told my sister first. I was a little afraid to tell my brother. He's my younger brother, but he had made some comments like, homophobic comments in the past, and I was reluctant to tell him. But when I did, he was totally fine, and I remember telling him in the car. I don't even recall how this happened, but I remember telling him in the car, and he gave me a hug and he said, "Don't worry, I still love you." So that was easier than I expected it to go. But in terms of coming out to my parents, I wasn't sure when I was going to do that, and I was really afraid to do it because I knew how they felt, and I was afraid that they were going to disown me, really. And I was really angry. I knew that I had to do it eventually because I was really angry. I was really angry at them and angry at my mom. It's like, and, rightfully so. I mean, they're curious. I'm in my late 20s, and she didn't understand because I had been married, and then she couldn't figure out, like, why I didn't have any boyfriends, and I wasn't talking about dating, and I had a lot of gay friends, and I mean, she knew I had gay friends. I wasn't hiding that. So I remember we had a conversation. She called me on the phone, and she asked me what I did over the weekend, and I told her what I did and who I was with. And I guess I was angry because I was getting so many questions all the time, and I was angry at myself because I wasn't being real. I wasn't able to have the relationship that I wanted to have with them. I couldn't talk to them about certain things. So she asked me, I don't understand, Wanda. Why do you have so many gay friends? I don't understand what's going on with you. Why do you have so many gay friends? And I just at that point, I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, Mom, because I'm gay too. And she got quiet, and she started crying, and I started crying. And it was like a 3-hour conversation that went up and down and all around, where ultimately she said, okay, I think I always knew, but I didn't want to know. And I love you. This is hard for me, but, we'll get through it. And, it wasn't easy. And it's much easier now, and I have to say, like, it's fine, but it was many years. It wasn't easy for them to understand and to get it. If I didn't come out, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't. It was going to happen. And if it didn't, I feel sorry for people that can't or feel that they can, because I could understand how you would want to commit suicide, or how you would want to disappear, somewhere. For me, it was unbearable. I just couldn't do it anymore. I could not live a lie anymore. I could not be myself with them, because not being myself with them, who were the most important people in my life, I wasn't being myself to myself. And it's suffocating. And I have to say that the moment that I told them, it was so liberating. I didn't care. I didn't give a shit who knew at that point. It didn't matter. That's all that mattered. And it changes you. It changes you. And then, to my surprise, maybe, I don't know, like 6-7 years later, my sister comes out, my baby sister, my younger sister. And I wasn't, it's funny because I wasn't ready for it either. And I guess, and I was happy for her. I was surprised. It was also, and I think it's the same thing that happens with parents. Parents are like, oh, you sure you want to do this? Maybe it's not going to be such an easy life. I already knew from my experiences what I, was going through or had gone through. And I thought, you sure you want to do this? So my sister actually, I think, came out to my mom. She wrote my mom a letter and coming out. And my mom wrote me the response, basically blaming me for influencing my sister, which, of course, we all know was not the case. But it's been a many-stage process. My dad's more, kind of goes with the flow. I don't think she fully really accepts, but understands that that's who we are. And, she loves me and loves my sister and loves my brother. I'm glad that my brother had a child, so she doesn't feel like she's not a grandma. But yeah, it's fine now.
Thank you for listening. For more, subscribe to Sundays at Cafe Tabac, the podcast. You can also learn more about us and our film at cafetabacfilm.com and at Cafe Tabac Film on social media.
Please share your thoughts with us on social media. And if you have a coming out story that you'd like for us to feature, reach out to us via our website. Happy Pride, everybody. Be safe.